Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and welcome to our show. Boy, have we got a show for you, don't we, Mike?
Yes, we do have a show. And by the way, what is that peculiar looking sign on your monitor that says 3 heaters?
It says three cheaters. This is a C over
Oh,
here. Okay.
oh,
Three cheaters, and it's about the Board of County Commissioners. Three cheaters. We are going to be talking about three cheaters a little bit later and the cheating things that they've been doing. You know the show, but it does remind me a bit of going to the coming attraction theaters.
mm,
And they always put up a thing at the beginning here in Grants Pass where it says you can find out what's coming up at coming attraction theaters by going to catheaters.com. And I always
mhm.
yell out cat heaters or catheters because that's what it spells.
Yes,
Go to
yes. And,
catheaters.com.
yes, always never be without your catheters. Go to catheters.com. And by the way, while you're getting your catheters, you can catch a movie.
And you can get a cat heater.
Yes, a cat heater in case you are not already using a cat as a heater.
Yeah, well, they work fairly well. As a matter of
Yes,
fact,
they do.
there's very few things that are colder than a cold cat, giving you the cold shoulder. I don't care about you. Aren't most cats like that?
Pretty
Okay,
much.
now that we've covered the news,
Yeah, that's the news. Good night, people.
so we had a chance to sit down again. We're front loading the program, whatever that means. It's like, a black powder front loader. We got a chance to sit down with the sheriff recently. And we've asked him a number of questions, things that I think are fairly important, and Mike has some interest in it as well. And he gave us some information. We talked about some of these things yesterday, and so we're going to sort of follow through here and have him explain some of his perceptions about people and what they think about him. Go ahead and play that footage, if you will, there, Mike. It's exclusive.
Mm.
What's the biggest?
Oh, hang on just a second here. There is a major problem.
Oh,
Yes, that's a problem. Okay, now. Now.
What's the biggest misperception in your mind that people have of you as the sheriff and the sheriff's department in general? What do they need to know? How can you set the record straight? What concerns you the most about people's perception of this job?
We're on their side. I want them. We are on the side of the citizen. We are here for them. We are conservators of the peace. That's what we try to do. I think it's so unfortunate. There's so many incidents out there that get the mass media blow up, as far as Ferguson and the other shooting where the officer shot the guy in the back and which was totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But things like that really damage the relationship between law enforcement and the citizenry. And I do anything to try and rebuild that. And I think we are trying to rebuild that. People, it's difficult. That's a hurdle. And we work on it daily, which is why, you don't always hear about the good things. Mostly you hear about the bad things. And that's too bad.
Where are the citizens most right about things that, well, yeah, you kind of got a point. We're working on that one. What's that point? Is there something where citizens have been a little critical of the sheriff's department, if not you, and where you'd say, yeah, well, you sort of got a point there. Okay, we're working on it.
That's fair. It's not a bad question. I think it probably has to do with just response. And it's I hate to say it and I hate to go back to this, but it's just due because we're so short staffed. I have 2 deputies on today for 10 hours to answer to potentially, 50,000 people out in the county that might have something going on. I mean, it's not hard to wrap your brain around that. But I think they get upset, and I don't blame them. They probably think they want or need or demand more service, but we're working on trying to provide it. I'm trying to figure out ways to slim down to where, the process is down that they go through as far as reports and things like that. Yet at the same time, we still are a professional public safety service. And I've been focusing very hard on that core. to make sure that when the services are provided, they're provided the right way. But I think it's probably just response times and or no response is what's getting people upset. And I don't know what to tell them. They're right. They have a right to be upset. Law enforcement, the struggles here in Josephine County.
What should citizens expect the rest of the year from you and your department?
Boy, I think at least services that are at the levels they are now. I think they'll hear more from us in the community watch arena. I think that's the neighborhood watch, community watch arena. Gosh, just trying to improve relations, I guess, I really want to try and get it to where I can book everybody into jail. It's a goal of mine.
Only guilty people, we hope.
Right. Those that are arrested, brought in, not necessarily guilty, but those that are arrested and brought in. And I think that would have a huge impact on our community and their belief in what the sheriff's office is doing. I think it's right for that reason, call it a political reason, but it's also right just because it's the right thing. People are being held accountable, even if it's for 5 minutes. The problem is I'm struggling with that funding to make that happen because we are truly at bare bones for where we're at right now. Maybe if I reduce the cap by, 90 or something like that, I might be able to, well, I couldn't because I couldn't get the funding through the state. But at any rate, that's something I'm still focusing on, not to bore you.
Man, this orange shirt thing is having an effect on everything around me. And yes.
I clearly didn't get the memo here.
What?
The orange shirt memo.
Oh,
that's oh well. Yes, that looks, those oranges look delicious.
Yeah, they really are. Anyway, yeah, I changed my shirt just for you. I think he's missing it again here. I'm asking him, what's the criticism that people may have and he says, well, a valid question. And then he starts talking about how they don't have enough patrols. We've tried to explain that the people out in the county, their complaint about this levy, and he's still stuck on this, their complaint about this levy wasn't that they think that they don't want any law enforcement. And it wasn't that they think that they demand all kinds of more law enforcement. It's that they did a cost-benefit analysis, looked at their own budgets, decided, okay, I probably don't really expect much more, and therefore I'm not going to vote for the extra money. Do you have a different perception, Mike, about this?
Yeah, actually I do. I don't think that, what can the guy do? He has a limited amount of funds. The levy didn't pass, and they're not going to give him road dollars. So and he's telling the people that you need to understand this is I can't. There's only so much that I can do here, and
we already know that. That's my point.
I don't really know where to fault him on that.
No. I'm not saying that. But we
okay, but
know, we already know we're not going to have.
I think it's
lots and lots of patrols. Go ahead.
Okay, here's the deal: a politician who you ask, where are you screwing up? The guy who answers that by, giving the laundry list of what he actually thinks he's screwing up on is an idiot. And no undressing while we're on the show here. This is a family program. Dale's doing a striptease over there, for crying out loud, Dale. My goodness, Jiminy Christmas. I'm going to have to keep talking here so the camera doesn't go to him. Yes, that would not be good. For crying out loud. You could have just continued to wear the orange shirt, Dale. I mean, that would have been fine. I like the orange shirt on the sheriff, and it looked good on you too. You could have just stuck with that.
Great vamping. I mean, really, thanks for covering for me here while I was getting off that itchy orange shirt and putting on this beautiful pink one. And I was hoping you would continue talking. You were going great guns, and all of a sudden you decided to talk about me and changing my clothes. I'm not going to sit here in that orange shirt. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
I have that orange shirt for a specific purpose, because I was working with over
the Orange Julius people.
I was working over the border to California with search and rescue people down in California. And in order to work down there and search and rescue, trying to serve my community and theirs, you have to wear orange. So that's why.
So I guess you had at some point sprinkled fiberglass powder on that shirt, or your cat slept in it or something like that?
Cat heaters. That's the problem.
Cat heaters. Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, no, the thing is, I didn't get much of a chance to wear it because I only worked with them a couple of times.
Still stiff.
Still kind of new. Yeah. Right. Yeah. As am I. Now, the next story that we're going to do here for you, and like I said, great vamping. Thank you very much, Mike. The next story we're going to do. Look, we review media.
If you just tell me before the show starts, hey, I'm going to take off this shirt right after people see it. And so
I didn't know I was going to do that because I didn't realize how itchy that shirt was, but it's no longer itchy and scratchy. The Itchy and Scratchy show, it's no longer that. The next story we review media. Who else does this? Nobody else does this. Okay. And so we've noticed with some questions, all of a sudden Channel 10 is showing up twice in 1 week, and Channel 10 is actually covering stories going on in Josephine County. For several big stories, they were nowhere to be found. They weren't interested. They weren't looking at anything having to do with the miners, and they weren't involved with this thing with the battles we've had here on all kinds of stuff. And their general attitude, forget those guys. So all of a sudden they start showing up. And when they did a story here that was supposed to be about, what was the title of that story supposed to be, Mike?
It was about the proposed cultivation ban, the outside cultivation ban in Grants Pass. We've all heard about this with the they're concerned that the smell of marijuana during harvest time is going to be bothersome to people, so they want to ban outdoor grows. So the story was supposed to be about the city council meeting once again to talk about this, and then when you go to the story, it has nothing to do with that at all.
Let's see the story. Keep in mind, it's supposed to be about outdoor cultivation of marijuana.
Yeah.
In just days, recreational marijuana will officially be legal in Oregon, and some business owners in Grants Pass aren't worried.
Just as long as they keep their stuff together outside of work and it doesn't affect their job here, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Popular restaurants like Circle J and Laughing Clem don't drug test their employees.
I look for people that have experience back there, honesty. Just show up on time for work and do your job with no drama.
David and Janice Siegfried are visiting from Washington State, where recreational marijuana is already legal. They say it's up to an employer whether they'd like to drug test someone or not. But marijuana shouldn't be treated any differently than alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol dissipates in your system a lot quicker than marijuana stays in your system a lot quicker. It doesn't mean you're stoned for 30 days.
Their business. And if you want to work,
You can't hear her.
Chris Hodge, another Washington resident, agrees. He says it all depends on a person's profession.
Something that you're operating heavy machinery or something like that, something where it could endanger yourself or the people around you, then I think that the employer has the right to drug test.
Covering your news, Ashley Crosco, News 10.
I think about half of the people in that story were under the influence of something already.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with the story. It just doesn't match the title, and it doesn't match the text of what they posted.
Right.
So,
And just for the record, that is Grants Pass proposes marijuana cultivation ordinance. Now, where would you have gleaned that from that story?
well, anyway, we look at other media and we try to say, especially the goofy headlines that are in the Courier. Sometimes it's just, what in the world are you saying here? Jumping to conclusions in the headline. Okay, so I just have no idea what that was supposed to all be about. It was interesting what they were saying, sort of, except this is now the coverage by Channel 10 of Grants Pass and Josephine County. Doesn't make any sense to me, but
Well, and I've talked about this before because I have known people that have worked in these newsrooms. You're getting people who, either get this job for who knows what reason, and they're planning on a career in reporting the news, and they're just starting out learning what to do. Somebody gives them a few pointers and say, "Off you go get that story," and that's what you get, and so it really wouldn't be too hard to outdo them in this respect, I don't think.
well, we found that to be the case. Okay, so now here is our story, several stories about the three cheaters, or catheters, if you prefer, and a couple of things that are happening, which I'm going to bring up tomorrow, will be this North Valley story. We briefly touched on that before, but you probably know that millions of dollars has been spent over the years, and recently too, by the state. That money comes out of your pocket, and by the county, to perk up the North Valley Industrial Center. And this now, since the airport project went belly up, this is now our number one. Wow, this is going to mean everything. Why, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of jobs, whatever. The only problem is, well, tell them what the problem is, Mike. Share the news with you. What is the problem with the North Valley Industrial Park?
It's not the bustling center of activity that they have planned it to be from the get-go. And I guess, they have sewer issues and stuff that, of course, I guess is going to be dealt with now with this state grant. But what this means is that a whole bunch more money is going to be poured into that. And what ultimately is going to be the end? Well, the end is that it goes back to the city. The ownership.
The whole thing gets turned over to the city, according to the best we can figure out. I did sit down with Wally Hicks and I said, so what's the deal here? Is this right? Is Keith Hick right when he told this to Cheryl Walker? And she looked shocked. And he says, that maybe in 12 years, maybe less, it's going to be handed over to the city as, here's a gift, after pouring all of our county money into this thing. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I've been looking at this since I first got in office. Really? What started you on that track? Why would you? I mean, nobody even knew this. Why did you suddenly decide to look at this? And did you know that it was going to turn over to? Well, I didn't get a chance to ask him any of those questions. But what the heck? I mean, this is kind of a big deal. Why are we continuing to pour money into that?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did he confirm it?
He confirmed that it's a controversy that he's looking into, that he realized it, because I just heard it in a meeting and then trotted over to see him. Oh, yeah, that's a controversy. Don't quite know the answer. Really?
Yeah, and I don't know. After examining this whole thing, I sort of have mixed emotions about it, because in reality, everybody in the county has been paying into this thing, and then it's going to be turned over to the city. But it's, perhaps the city will have a taxing authority or some authority to, collect money from the utility bills and stuff in that area. I'm assuming that that's what's going to happen. That billing will go from a county to a city thing. And so what really is the difference there? What is the detriment in it going to the city?
Well, one of them is, all right, some people feel that if they have a wonderful home, that they're going to turn it over to their children when they're gone. Yeah, right. Okay. But in this case, we put all this money and time and effort, sweat equity, all of our fortunes into this thing that are going to mean a lot for the county, and we give it as a gift to the city. Stop spending money on it like today. And if you have a question about what's going to happen to it,
I get that angle because, I mean,
the
county doesn't have any money and the city doesn't really have any money problems. You know,
right.
That's the.
So why are we spending so much money on doing something this grand and glorious plan? And I'm going to say it again, even if we have a question about it, stop spending money today until you answer the question.
Yeah, why don't we just have a ceremony and turn it over to the city earlier, and they can dump millions of dollars into it?
Don't spend money on something if you're not sure you get to keep it. It's a gift. We're not selling it to them. We're giving it away to them. What kind of money? Fiscal conservatives. We need fiscal conservatives. What is this? We desperately need that, and we need people right from the get-go that have the right attitude about this. This is not the right attitude, and the money continues to be spent. That's a lot of money. You want to talk about where did the money go? You think $600,000 for one piece of software that doesn't work is a lot of money. This is a lot more money than that, and it's built on things like a failing It's not a failing intersection. Who made up this huge lie? Well, we know who made up the lie. ODOT points their finger straight at our county commissioners, saying they're the ones who did. Well, you know, we need to get rid of these characters. Okay, another one which money continues being spent is here we had a little bit of this is repetition, but you can put up with a little tiny bit of it. The show is free. So when we had this previous most wonderful project in Josephine County, according to Moody's, because the investment service guys, because Simon here told them it was, and they came up with the conclusion why this is the best thing going, you know. Well, that was out at the airport, again, centering around an airport. Larry Graves involved again, and that deal out there where he had fully vetted it was Simon Hare's biggest contributor, blah, blah. And the next day after they said, yes, we're doing this right away, Larry Graves was in there, and you've seen the video. And he was, well, you know, there are several reasons why my people need more hours, but the main thing is that they're going to be spending all this time on manor development. Well, they were given the thing right away, the money right away. They haven't been spending it on that at all. And so when are the commissioners going to decide to say, you know, we don't need those people full time because they're not doing any of those things? Well, the answer is never. You already know the answer. Yeah. And so shouldn't they just, we asked this a couple of months ago. Well, when are you going to stop? Well, we don't know yet. Well, now they know. So at what point do you say, okay, you guys got a free gift, but the gift is over? Right. We're hanging on by our fingernails. Remember this? This is hanging on by your fingernails.
Yes, and unfortunately, generally government doesn't do that. They don't go backwards.
Brother. So you can trust us. We're going to spend the money correctly. Well, no, you're not. And you add this stuff together. It's like that thing, I think it was Everett Dirksen that said, when most of us were children, that you have, once you have $1 million here and $1 million there, and pretty soon it adds up to be a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Good paraphrase, I think. Another question that recently came up and things that were brought before the commissioners is the people from Sunny Valley who had some complaints. You saw our show, our special about that. Where they don't like the idea of trucks running up and down through their community day and night, you know, for 30 years, because it's going to destroy their peace of mind and probably have an effect on property values. So you may also recall another rather insidious thing in my mind is that the people up on Allen Creek, the county decided to go ahead and sign carte blanche and give away the right to eminent domain, which is seizing your property. They give away the right of county residents to city government. Really? And can that happen again? Yes, apparently so. So one of the things Allen Creek residents need to look at is, why is it so necessary? See, they had a road that cut off at one point. They put up a barrier. And so it ended up being a one-way street where you'd have to turn around to go back. And the traffic was slow along there because no one's going to roar on through there because it wasn't a through street, not a through street. This is strange terminology. Anyway, now the city, before we turned it over to them, they want it to be a through street. Here's the question to Allen Creek residents. All these things about, oh, there's going to be planters. Why? There's going to be areas for children to play. Oh, there's going to be just a wonderful bike path. Is the city setting this up so trucks can run through your community? You better think about it, bud. What is the purpose behind making it a through street? Is there some kind of business that it has big trucks that need to roar because they're going to save, a 3-block detour by roaring through your little community with the children playing along the side of the road and riding their bicycles while trucks roar through your community? You better look into that, because maybe that's what this is all about. Not that you can do anything about it, but go ahead, Mike.
Is there a situation over on Allen Creek that has to do with trucks moving?
I don't know. See, this is the thing.
Aware of it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things happening. You go, what's the motivation behind it? Why would they do this very odd thing?
Good question.
Whenever you see this government in particular doing something where that's a really odd thing. Do you remember the really odd thing where Simon Hare came up with the emergency deal that needed to be done? He brought it under matters from commissioners. Matters from commissioners. No, it wasn't even that. It was other. At the weekly business session. Other, they never put anything on other unless it's a true emergency. Well, it was a true emergency. This couldn't be on the agenda. Okay, gee, I wonder what this is. There's a fire in Selma? No. We need to write an emergency letter. An emergency letter? Yeah, and this is about hemp farming. Hemp farming? Hemp farming? Well, as it turned out, both Simon and Cheryl are in the hemp farming business, or they purport to be. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to send this letter off using our county resources to benefit their private business. Really? As what? Partners? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
But they both confessed that that's what they were up to. And they took the risk of getting admonished for behavior that is centering around a conflict of interest. Now, why would they take that? And you go, well, that's an odd thing to do. Whenever you say that's an odd thing to do, yes. Be very careful, get on alert. Well, as it turns out, maybe, just maybe, the state's going to reimburse people that planted hemp if they make a rule that you can no longer plant hemp. Well, that kind of explains this sudden interest in everybody in county government wants to be a hemp farmer. Why? Because they found out about it ahead of time. They didn't tell us, hey, everybody, let's all plant hemp because we're going to make like, what, $2,000 a plant or something just by plowing our plants under. So what have they done? The latest information we have is they've just planted thousands of more plants. Now, let's see. Why would somebody plant thousands more plants, thousands, if they knew they were going to be needed to be plowed under? What's the monetary incentive on this for these inside traders?
Don't really know, but it smells kind of dirty at this point because
more than marijuana.
I don't see either one of those as the farmer type.
Well, inside traders. The only thing is you've been spelling trader wrong. Because this money comes out of your pocket. This money isn't just growing on some kind of hemp tree somewhere. This money comes directly out of your pocket, and it's potentially reimbursing our county commissioners who've gone into business together, apparently. And is Jim Frick involved in this? And I asked Simon Hare, I said, Jim Frick is involved in this with you. He didn't say anything one way or another. I mean, what are you talking about, Mr. Meth? He didn't say anything. I said, this fellow at Manor Development, your biggest contributor, is this guy involved too? I mean, it'd be odd that Jim Frick, who was going to move to Idaho because we were criticizing this company that ended up being bogus, and a fellow involved with Manor Development were both involved with Simon And now only one of them gets called in on this deal, which looks like it might make them a bunch of money out of our pockets. Out of our pockets. That money is supposed to be to reimburse people who one would think in a legitimate world. Right. Don't forget the 3 cheaters. In the legitimate world, the idea would be, well, you've been hemp farmers for a while and we're going to put you out of business. We're so sorry, but we're going to pay you a bunch of bucks. Except, do you think that the idea was supposed to be, oh, once you find out about that, you suddenly become a hemp farmer, and now here you are, and you send off a letter saying, oh, let's influence you, and we're going to make money. Something stinks more than those marijuana plants that they want to have to grow indoors, along with the mayor who makes money if people put in his electrical system to grow their stuff indoors. Yeah. Well, you may recall the mayor of Cave Junction. Remember who that used to be?
No.
Don Moore. Don Moore. Don Moore is apparently making a small fortune from leasing out his land to marijuana farmers in the Illinois Valley. Remember Don Moore that didn't really like most of this stuff, and he was kind of against this kind of stuff, and he was one of the people that originally led the Cave Junction City Council toward the idea, well, this is not good for our community and our young people. Well, now he's making a small fortune from it. That's what I understand. Lovely.
Interesting. Yes. Yes. The level of your commitment has, something to do with how well you're reimbursed, apparently.
And if you can turn your public office around into a way to make to line your pockets with our money, hey, why not? Isn't that the prime achievement of cheaters? It depends on your motivation. If your motivation is to line your own pockets, then by all means, run for county commissioner. Because that pays a lot of money, unless you happen to run into 1 or 2 candidates that say, you know what, we're going to take what the charter says. What? $30,000? That's impossible. Oh, no, it's not. That's what the charter says. I say to you, if you're not going to be paid what the charter says, then don't run for this office. Because we're going to run for this office and say we're going to be paid according to what the charter says, and you go ahead and try to compete with that. Why? I think I'm worth a lot more than that. Okay. You can use that argument to try to get elected. And then tell people that you're about your past commitment toward levies of all kinds. Well, I was committed to a lower levy. Good luck with that. It needs to be turned around.
So did anything else happen at today's meeting?
Yes, indeed, something else happened. Now, this seems like a small thing, and you're going to say, well, that doesn't really amount to much, Dale. Let's find out. So one of the things that I told you about that happened at a weekly business session is that Simon brought up under other, which means it's not on the agenda. This is important because we cannot keep track of what they're doing if it's not on the agenda. And no one can show up and say, wait a minute, I'm vitally interested in that issue. Gee, I'm involved in the cannabis business. I'm involved in the hemp business. I might like to know something about that. Not if it's not on the agenda. And they continue having meetings in the little back room where they're not putting it on the agenda that there are certain things that are happening. And they're reading from a list. We've talked to Wally about this. He's warned them about it. And it's state law that you must tell people when it's on the agenda so they know what you're talking about. And maybe they can go back and they can read the minutes because it's on the agenda. And you're going to have an idea what happened unless you follow it every day like we do. And you can't do that. That's why we do that. So Simon brought up at today's meeting, it was kind of a gitchy little backroom meeting. And they were talking about fire standards and all. And I'll tell you one more. Well, first I'll tell you this, and then I'll tell you what I think was the main story from that. So they're talking about fire standards, and Leah Harper, doggone it, from the legal counsel's office said, well, you know, maybe you should go into executive session on this. And Keith Eckes, oh, I mean, he's kind of, you know, oh, executive session. Yeah, well, because you're going to be talking about something that might touch on the emergency operations plan, because it's fire plans. Yes, well, I guess we'll go into executive session. Simon Hare, what a reverse of roles. Simon Hare says, no, wait a minute. Does this have to be done in executive session? Well, no, not really. And Keith Heck kind of sags, well, we don't need to go in an executive session. And Simon Harris says, well, because we didn't notice it. We didn't post it as it may go into executive session. Was it posted that way? And he looks up and I can't help myself. No! If they're going to go into a secret session, they need to tell you. Because why am I there? Not just me, but you. You're there with the camera. And what's the compelling reason? Wally Hicks was sitting right there. Wally, what's the compelling reason to be secret? As it turns out, this meeting lasted for 2 hours. There was no compelling reason for any of it to be secret. And the reason that might have been there is so bogus. Why, we need to keep our emergency operations plan secret. What? From terrorists, maybe. What's our terrorist plan? Yes, keep it secret. What's our
right? So we don't know what we're going to do.
The fire. What? The fire is going to read the plan. I think I'm going to go over here. No, it's keeping it secret from you. What is the reason that they must go into executive session? Because if they reveal these secrets, why, that's going to be terrible for our county security, for our national security, for our international security, if we reveal our top secret emergency operations plan. They talked for 2 hours nonstop. Blah, 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 blah. One of the most boring meetings I've ever been in. I do such things for you. Yeah, I sacrificed. I gave birth to you. And this is the great gratitude that I get. Oh, wait, that's my mother. No, the point is that there was no need for them to go into executive session. But Keith was danged ready, man. He was going to do it right there. It was Simon Hare that blew the whistle on this. Said, no, wait a minute. One would hope it would be Leah Harper, who works with legal counsel, or legal counsel himself was sitting right there. It was Simon. It's like the other day when Cheryl Walker suggested that all fireworks should only be put on by the county. It was Keith Heck who said, well, that plan doesn't make any sense. Keith Heck said something about something not making sense. What the world's going on with these roles? Keith Heck said that doesn't make sense. Keith? Okay, so
it's, a broken clock is right twice a day.
I thank you for being tolerant to me. Every once in a while, I take the bit, and I'm gone, buddy. Not only is the barn door open, the horse is bolted from the entire field, and he's way over in the next county. That's me today. So one more thing. You asked. One more thing happened today at that meeting. It was at the end of the meeting. Always wait for the very last things in the meeting. Never leave early. Don't ever fall asleep, especially not at the end. So Simon Hare stands up because it's such a long meeting, and everybody figures, well, the guy's got to go to the bathroom again. Nope, not this time. He just, I can't stand this anymore. He says, well, actually, I have to stand because I can't sit this anymore, or whatever it was. It's supposed to be a joke. Nobody laughed. And he said, well, I want to bring up, and this is odd. Maybe he misspoke. Just maybe. This is a show about politics. We're telling you this. He said, well, I want to bring up something under matters from commissioners, which means, guess what? It's not on the agenda. And I want to bring it up Thursday. Thursday, matters from commissioners. Usually when they announce this ahead of time, on a Tuesday, they're talking about doing it on a Wednesday morning. And see, there's not 24-hour notice. So they have to bring it up under matters from commissioners if it's a compelling need, like sending off a letter to benefit your own business. They have to do it under matters because they can't post it. It's impossible to post it. But this would be for a Thursday meeting, and there's plenty of time. Now, even before you know what the issue is, Mike, why would you think that the commissioners would not want to post something when they could post something that's going to happen?
Well, that's that whole, not wanting transparency situation because you're going to try to, sneak one under the door.
Kind of looks that way. Now, you judge for yourselves. Does this sound like something they might not want to tell everybody? Okay, this is going to come up. He says on Thursday, maybe he misspoke, under matters from commissioners, can't be posted. So no one will know what's happening except we're telling you. that they're going to put together, according to Simon, some kind of task force on marijuana. Rules, regulations, what can the county do for taxing it? What should the county do about restricting it? How can we drive this out of business?
I thought that cow already left the barn on the I mean, didn't we have a huge meeting and everybody came about whether or not the county could tax marijuana, and it basically was determined that they couldn't, and so that's the end of that?
Well, apparently that's not the end of that, because there's going to be, well, what about our ordinance officers? How are they going to enforce this? What are the fines going to be? How many ordinance officers should there be? Should we hire a bunch of new people? Well, you know what J.J. Schofield's going to, well, we need to hire a bunch of new people. Shouldn't we set up maybe a whole new department called Put Marijuana Out of Business Department? So many possibilities. And so they want to start a task force. Simon wants to start a task force. Now, why would you think that they might want to limit the number of people that even knew about a task force being set up to regulate marijuana? Why would they not want to tell everybody, Mike?
Yeah, because the people generally wouldn't like that. The marijuana people wouldn't like it because that's going to be a thorn in their side. And the rest of the people wouldn't like it because they're expanding the size of government again.
And it might possibly be just a possibility that someone from the cannabis business, maybe a couple of someones, hello, Mark Seligman, they might want to show up and say, I would like to be on this task force. So you don't tell them that it's being formed. What?
And
you
don't even
list it. You don't even list the possibility. So someone's reading through their random, and they say, a task force on marijuana? That's on the agenda? Well, I'd like to go and watch, even if I can't speak. You don't even tell them that.
Right, and then the commissioners stack it with their own people.
Now remember in the levy how Cuffs said, Community United for Safety said, well, we're going to have a group of people who are going to vet everything as closely as the county did this whole deal with the drone project. They're going to vet everything, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to, and it's going to be made up of people from all walks of life. Translation, from all walks of Rotary Club. Okay. So guess who are they going to want? Let's have fun and put together a list of people they'd want. They're going to want Jim Frick on this committee. Pat Fahey has to be on every committee having anything to do with taxes, because Pat's only interested in taxes, and he's got to be on this. Roy Lindsay, that wonderful guy from the city council. Mark Gatlin, they've all got to be on, and that'll stack that up. And then you're going to need to have 3 representatives from the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce. You're going to need to have 2 representatives from a club. What club would they pick? The Rotary Club, and a couple other people who hate marijuana. Maybe a couple of people that are. Cliff Thomason is apparently involved in the hemp industry to, partly drive this, marijuana out of business. It's one of the goals. Would you want to have anybody that represents the marijuana business? Nah, you don't need that on this kind of thing. All not on the agenda, but definitely going to be brought up. And you only hear this from us because they're not going to tell you. Come on now. If you find out about it, you might be interested in it, and they can't have that. I'm going to announce it at tomorrow's weekly business session. When were you going to tell us about this?